Hey everyone, it's Shobi, and this is part 2 of what the song is about.
Branches of an olive tree reaching out in the sun.
Last month I released a single titled Bougainvillea, which was the second single of my upcoming album. Now Bougainvillea is a difficult word to pronounce, but Bougainvillea is that pink flower / plant that you would see in Mediterranean. It's literally on one of the first pictures that come out when you type Greece into Google and go on the images. Now, this song didn't even have a title for ages. I wrote this one about 3 years ago. It didn't have a chorus. When I first started writing it, it was a different method of songwriting for me. I was running out of ideas. I was in a bit of a rut. So what I did was I just started writing down chord progressions without even playing them, using my, theory knowledge, music theory knowledge. I would even show you the chords from when I first wrote them because I still have that journal, but I'm sort of moving, so that won't be possible today. I'm actually trying to find the first voice recording for it, and I'm nearly in 2021, dating back to 2021, so it must be about 3 years old. Long story short, it took me a while to fully complete this song. I started writing it 2021, 2022. It then started taking shape, and I actually had a clearer idea of what I wanted this album to be. So the first title for the track was Shepherds Don't Get Lost.
State so challenging, a shepherd out in the golden field. Okay.
You can certainly hear this influence of that title, where it might have come from. In the pre-chorus, the first draft of the lyrics, I wrote it when I was incredibly homesick. I was so homesick that it was making me actually physically ill. It's quite descriptive, and it's trying to capture the essence of a Mediterranean landscape. So when I sat down to finish the song, write a chorus, that's what I had in mind. I struggled a little bit, but all I had to do was imagine a nice spring evening back home, which ended up being the chorus.
Like the back of my hand, but I slipped and fallen to the palm of her hand. It feels like spring evening, Livadia. It feels like
Livadia is the village that my father was born in. It's quite the typical tiny Mediterranean village, inhabited by lots of chobis. And to me, it's the core of my favorite childhood memories. I have a very big family, and all of us coming together on grandma's porch, playing games and laughing and singing and all sorts. That was essentially first verse, pre-chorus, the first chorus, and then I put it aside again because I was struggling a little bit. What I did have was, from the first draft, these lyrics kind of scribbled on my tiny journal at the time about grandma sweeping. I think it's a quite Mediterranean thing to do, to sweep the outside, clean up the outside. I don't know what the fuck the point of that is. But the great thing about that was I could imagine both my grandmas doing that. And I thought, well, this must be a universal experience, at least for people like myself. There has to be a more universal language here to express this song, what the song is about, what this emotion is. That's when I came up with Bougainvillea, which is quite a Mediterranean flower, and most Cypriot families or grandmas will have these kind of under porch providing shade. That's how the second verse took shape, which gave the song its title. And I suppose it's really difficult to define a song. It's really difficult to say what a song is about, which is ironic given that I myself decided to start these series. But I like my friend's interpretation of it. My friend Arcin, who's one of the smartest people I know.
What is Bougainvillea about? I think that's a very interesting question. And I think it's a question that I think about whenever I see any sort of written or sung work about any part of the Cypriot ecology now. I think it's really interesting that you have given a flower that you see more because of your family this sort of secondary significance, and that it resembles something so familial to you and so loving as well. And I think the song captures that really well, in the sense that the flower is not just a symbol of your family and your love for the country and the love that you're talking about, but also just a great sort of motif that connects you to the place that you're talking about, which I really like that you mentioned Livadia by name, especially after Red Lotus's Philly. It's a great combination of the small world that is raising you, or the sort of idiosyncratic geography that you have, and it combines sort of your birth with the aspiration that you have, or the inspiration that you have. But I only observed it under the context of what Skin Untouched is coming to represent as a whole. Yeah, I really like that idea of going back to the nature that reminds you of home and reminds you of the love that you are dealing with, whether that be familial or romantic or whatever. I remember one of the times I was listening to the song, I was thinking that I like the fact that the she in this context is sort of ambiguous, in the sense that it could be the love interest, but it could also be just your yenges and halas and nenes and dedes just sort of laughing around and being sarcastic in their own way, and being sort of careless in that moment. It's such a nice sort of scene of sitting under the tree as a family and sort of having the grandma doing the work and all that. Yeah, it's a very familial and sort of comforting image, which I like. What else was the question? What do I think it means?
No, that I think you answered it perfectly. That was your interpretation, which in my mind it made a lot of sense, and I talk about this in the video itself anyway. But the kind of subconscious guilt of flirting with another culture, and trying to find an essence of home in that culture, which is probably just a level of delusion.
I don't think it's delusion, because I don't think the culture that you're searching for love in is necessarily so far removed from the context of your own homeland, whether that be colonial or what we wish we were, or the culture that you are now looking for love in had an impact on your homeland for 100 years. It's not a small sort of duration of time that will not change the way you behave. I do agree with. I do think that it is a sort of a projection of the love you have and the love you expect from your homeland, or the cultures of your homeland, projected onto a foreign person. Yeah, demişim. Whatever I said, I was right probably.
Arcin Celikesmer, everyone. I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe this is internally about me trying to replicate this feeling of home in England, which is a massive contrast to what I grew up with. I actually ended up finding one of the first drafts, at least, and it was called Paris.
Branches of an olive tree, reaching out in the sun, so sure and long.
I think I was trying to tie it to like a romantic scene in Paris, whilst clearly describing Cyprus. It supports my argument even more that I was just deluded by this kind of sense of romanticizing anything but what I was actually missing. Like, I was too blind to see that the entire problem was that I was missing home. Production-wise, I produced the majority of this song in my living room at my uni accommodation. I had a demo recorded, and then I had rough drafts of the guitars, of the acoustic guitars, but I didn't like any of it, so I just scrapped the whole thing and I started again. I recorded it on this guitar. Her name is Texas. Compared to the writing process, I was much more in tune with my heritage and who I was and what my mission might be as a Cypriot artist when producing this song. Initially, it was meant to be like a deep cut on the album, just like acoustic guitar and myself. But at the time, I was listening to a lot of artists from the Eastern Mediterranean region, namely Soladot, Ahmet Kaya, Haris Alexiou, lots of kind of Arabic music as well, lots of Italian music, a lot of Spanish, like Latin music. And this was also at a time where I was in my last year at university, so I was doing a lot of research. I was writing a lot. Music in the Mediterranean region, specifically Cyprus, but also kind of deep diving into the more historical and sociological aspect of it, as well as neurological, because I was really curious about why I had felt this kind of shame and embarrassment about my heritage and culture and how it looked and sounded for the longest time. And with this song, with this drum beat, I feel like there's a sense of acceptance and pride in who I am and what I look and sound like and what my people have sounded like for years. I ended up putting this kind of Eastern Mediterranean drum beat behind the song. Which completely changed everything. I could all of a sudden, with these new drums, I could hear a bass guitar and I could hear synthesizers, and all of a sudden I was very excited about this song, probably much more than any other song on the album, which is why it ended up being one of the singles.
Branches of an olive tree reaches out in the sun, so sure